All right, let's look at factoring quadratic trinomials now, where we have basically what I would probably consider the most difficult case available, and that's where you have a coefficient that is not 1 in front of the x squared, and where your b term is negative, and then c is either positive or negative. So this is kind of taking everything that we've done up to this point and using the factoring by grouping and throwing it all in the hat and seeing what we get. So let's take a look at a couple of problems. So we got 10y squared minus 35y plus 30. So the very first thing I want you to try to remember is, in one of the first videos I told you should do two things. And the first thing I said you should do is that you should always make sure that, oh, that's a bad color. No, that's a bad color too. You should always, number one, make sure that it's written in ax squared plus bx plus c. And then the second thing you should always do is you should always factor out any common numbers that you can pull out. So this problem is a good example of, it gets a lot easier if you do some factoring up front. So if you look at this, you got 10y squared minus 35y plus 30. So this would be a good time to look at that and say, hey, you know what? I can take 5 out of this whole thing. And then I can go from there. So if I do that, if I take 5 out, I get 2y squared minus 7y plus 6. And this becomes much simpler because when you start looking at your factors and what you're going to have to do, it's just going to be a lot easier. Because remember, what we do is we multiply a times c. Well, if you would have done that with this top one, you'd have 300, and you have to find all the factors of 300. That, you know, and that's ridiculous. So you don't want to do that. So we've got our a times c now that we're using with this version right here, right? With this. So we're going to go 2 times 6, and you always include the sign. So it's positive 2 times positive 6, and that gives us 12. And so we're going to look at factors of 12 that, when we add them together, are going to give us negative 7. So you've got 1 and 12, and these are both going to have to be negative, right? Because this is positive and this is negative. Well, the only way two factors can add to be negative and then multiply to be positive is if they're both negative. So you have negative 1, negative 12. That doesn't work. Negative 2 and negative 6 gives you negative 8, so it's close, but no cigar. Negative 3, negative 4 is the winner. This is what we're looking for. So we're going to rewrite this now. And we're going to rewrite this as 2y squared. And now I'm looking at this, and I think what I'm going to do, because I got this plus 6 over here, I know that 2 and negative 3 are not going to factor. So I'm going to put the negative 4y over there, and then put the negative 3y over here. And if once you start looking at it, you say, oh, that was probably a good choice. Save myself a little trouble. All right, so I can pull 2y out of these first two terms. And that gives me y minus 2. And then I can pull negative 3 out of both of these terms. And this gives me y. And then, even though this is positive 6, you got to think, what do I multiply by negative 2 to get to positive 6? Well, it would have to be negative 2. And then you've got that factor, that same factor you want out of both of them that you can pull out. Y minus 2. And then you finish by putting the other two together. And then the last thing I always ask you guys to do, because I think it's just good practice, is I ask you to multiply this all together and just work backwards and make sure you did your work right. So y times 2y gives me 2y squared. You get negative 4y, and then negative 3y. I'm not really doing FOIL, I'm just kind of multiplying. And then negative 2 times negative 3 gives me plus 6. And then if you combine these, you get that negative 7y that's up here. And so your finished answer is going to be, and I don't know where I'm going to write this, but you're going to have that 5 out front, and then you have y minus 2 times 2y minus 3. And then this, oops, I don't want that. And this is what we're looking for. Okay, let's try another one. All right, so this one, there isn't a factor I can pull out of it. All right, it's written in ax squared plus bx plus c form. So the first thing I recognize is this is negative and this is negative. So that means that my factors, I'm going to have one positive factor and one negative factor. And my negative factor is going to have to be bigger than my positive factor. When I add them, it's going to give me that. So knowing that is good. All right, so let's start by doing 2 times negative 9, right? Because you do a times c. So we're going to go 2 times negative 9, and that's going to give me negative 18. Now, I want two factors that when I add them up are going to give me negative 3. So if I think about that, all right, so negative 1 and 18 is going to give me 17. And then 1 and negative 18 is going to give me negative 17. So that doesn't work. 2 and 9, right? So if I have negative 2 times 9, that gives me 7. And the other one's going to give me negative 7. Hopefully you've seen that now. 3 and 6. So if I go negative 3 times positive 6 gives me 3. Ooh, I'm almost there. I want negative 3. So let's switch those signs around and do 3 times negative 6. And that gives me negative 3. So these are the two factors I want. So let's rewrite this as, sorry, I'm not ready for the parentheses quite yet. Let's rewrite this as 2x squared. And then let's put the negative 6x right next to this one. And then plus 3x minus 9. All right, because I saw 2 and 6 is a 1 to 3 ratio, and same with 3 to 9 is a 1 to 3 ratio, so I'm probably going to get some similarities when I factor. So let's pull 2x out of both of these, and you get x minus 3, and then plus 3, and then you get x minus 3, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for those similar factors that we got right there. So that means that I get x minus 3 times, and then 2x plus 3. So now we are going to do our multiplication to make sure we did this right. X times 2x is 2x squared. So outside, 3x inside, negative 6x, and then last, negative 9. Combine things together, and you get this, which looks remarkably like what we had before. So that means that my finished answer is indeed this right here. So this isn't the hardest thing in the world to do, but if you don't break it down like this and you just kind of hunt and peck, you're going to have a hard time with this. That's why I think this method of doing it is really good. And like I said, I just learned this a few weeks ago, seriously. So I really like it. I think it's good. I think it's solid. The book talks about doing it this way, but shows it in, I think, a slightly more complicated way. So good luck with this. Practice is probably the best way to get this under your fingers so that you know what you're doing.